So we were going to get into our breakdown. This is going to be being a leader in your home, core values and setting culture. So the premise of this came from, thinking about how much energy and effort I put forth at work when it has to do with, delivering a presentation or consulting with leaders or whatever it is that I need to do on that given day. It's a lot easier for me to do what I need to do to crush it at work, to do a great job, overperform, show out, do all the things. Everyone loves you. Wow. All that good stuff. But then when I get home, I'm like phoning it in. And I don't have the energy anymore and I'm tired and my kids want to play, but I'm like, I don't feel like it. So, and that's like, but who you are at home, the leader that you are for your kids means so much more, right? Than the work that you're doing at your job. You're not developing your kids at work. You're not setting their minds up for when they need to, join the workforce and when they grow up and all those things. That's so much more important than the work that we're doing in our 9 to 5. And yet we put all of our energy and effort towards that. And then we don't have any energy for what really matters when we get home. So I thought about it and, was just thinking that real leadership is fatherhood, first of all, parenthood, right? But leadership means showing up in your role. And, we teach that at work. We teach that all the time, that as a leader, as a people manager, you have these roles that you need to play, especially when there's things changing and a lot of movement and shifts and blah, blah, blah in corporate workplaces and all these different environments that you work in. Things change and move and shift so fast. So you have to be, playing the right role at the right time. But it's the same thing for a parent, same thing for a dad when you're at home. You need to be able to fill your role. Right. And so there's 3 roles, first of all, that I feel like we need to understand before we even look at, what are these pillars for being a leader in your home? And so the first role is a culture setter. So you are the head of the household, so they say. So what does it feel like to live in your house? Do you know? Do you know what it feels like? Have you asked? Thinking about it like that, I'm like, no, I haven't. I don't really know. I think I've asked before. I think I've asked my wife once, what is it like being around me? What is it like living with me? And fortunately, her answer wasn't nearly as bad as I was like preparing for. But that's probably something you should look into is, being able to ask, what is it like to live in this house? And just think about it from your kid's perspective, from your wife's perspective, from your perspective. How do you feel living in your house, in your family? And then, how do you think your family feels? And what are you doing about that? What tone are you setting for people to feel comfortable or at ease or safe, whatever it is, or to make sure they're not feeling anxious or paranoid or on their toes or walking on eggshells when they're home? You're setting that culture, right? The other role is the standard carrier. So you're like the example and you're the enforcer's a bit extreme, but you're the one making sure that things are being followed regardless of feeling or mood or anything like that. There are standards that are in place, values that we need to fall back on. So being able to answer what's acceptable versus what's not, like what's just not going to fly. And what are some things that, hey, I get it based on the situation. That's excusable because, it's you're upset. It's okay to be upset. And then what are those things that it's like, hey, regardless of how we feel, that is never something that we do, right? Luca for Easter the Easter Bunny got him a laser tag little setup, and really, really cool. We got the batteries for it and everything, got it set up. And so the first day he was using it by himself and he's just, pointing it makes noise every time you shoot it and stuff. So he's not actually playing, but he's just kind of shooting it around. The second day, the batteries came. So I put the batteries in the other gun and the other vest. And so him and I are playing against each other. And of course, old shoot from the hip, John Wayne over here, I just started blasting him and I beat him. What do you want? What do you want from me? I beat him. And then I beat him like 2 or 3 more times. And, I'm like, hey, let's play again. And every time he's shooting, he's pointing somewhere away. He's pointing up or down or, he's chasing after me. So I'm like, if you chase after me, I'm going to turn around and run. And then my back's to you. You can't hit my vest. You got to play in a way that we stay facing each other so that when you shoot, you can point it at my vest And that's how you get points. And he's just shooting it everywhere. So I'm like, buddy, you got to point it, aim. You got to point the front of the gun where my vest is so that it'll register, and then it vibrates and it takes a point away from me and it gives you a point. So he starts getting frustrated, turns it off. And now you don't know too much about me, maybe, if you're just watching this for the first time. But if you know me, one of those things as a standard in our house is that we do not give up on stuff like that. We don't just quit because it's hard. And so that was a rough conversation for him, but it was a moment where it was like, hey, you're frustrated because you can't hit my vest every time and that you keep losing. It's like, yeah, that's why I'm frustrated. Like, all right, hey, I get it. It's okay to be frustrated, but you still want to keep playing, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, guess what? You just turned it off, which means the game's over now. You ended the game because you turned it off. Now all the points are gone. And this is why we need to be able to control ourselves and not give up when we get frustrated. So then he gets even more upset because now the game's over. I'm like, hey, I know, I get it. Hey, yep, I know. Why don't we take a break? Let's just pause. And then we, had to sit down again later and talk about it. And it was like, we don't give up, right? Because if you didn't give up in that moment, gun would still be on. We'd still be going back and forth. You just need to keep trying. You're not going to get any better if you give up anytime it gets hard. There's going to be so many things in your life that are going to be hard, and you're just going to have to figure it out. And we can help you. I'm here to help you, but I can't help you if you just throw in the towel and give up. So standard carrier, what's acceptable, what's not. In our house, giving up, not okay. We're not giving up. We can be done with something, be like, this isn't for me. Fine. Don't give up though. It's like eating. It's like not wanting to eat food that you've never tried before. That's another thing for dinner. Sometimes we'll make food and they're like, ew, I don't like that. Like, I know that you don't know that because I know that you've never eaten it before. Eat it. Try one bite. If you don't like it, I'm not going to make you eat it. You're not going to eat anything else. That's what's for dinner. So I don't know what to tell you, but I'm not going to force you to eat. Like, our generation growing up was you sit there, you sit at the table and you don't get up until your food's done. And so, I would sit there forever. I'm not, my kid he's not going to have to sit there the whole time. If you don't want to eat, don't eat, but don't ask me for any more food. You can go to bed and you'll be all right. You'll have a good breakfast. Usually what happens is they'll be like, I'm so hungry. Like, yeah, you're not going to starve. You can have a big breakfast tomorrow. You'll be all right. And so what's acceptable, what's not. That's something that you need to establish in your home. And the other role I think is just you're your wife too, but both of you as parents, but you also as the dad, you're the emotional anchor because you need to anchor for your kids and for your wife a lot of the times. And so you need to be able to answer that question. Are you stable or are you reactive? Hopefully the answer is stable, but our goal is to be stable. The one that is always level, not always, but can keep a level head. The one that everyone's looking to as like the temperature gauge of like, all right, should we be concerned or are we good? If you're calm, chances are everyone else is going to be calm. But if you're on edge and you're freaking out, I notice whenever I'm on edge, stressed, cranky, everybody seems a little off. The whole house is off. And you need to recognize like how important it is that you fulfill those roles to where you can be stable, even if things aren't okay, right? But you're able to keep a level head because it keeps everyone kind of treading water until things are a little better. So those are the roles. First is like, let's get those down. From there, these are the pillars, right? So the pillars of leading your home as the head of your household, as the dad, as the papa bear. These are the pillars that you need to remember and think about as you're, setting the tone and establishing what your household looks like. First pillar, presence over provision. Most of the time we feel like as dads that our sole job is to just provide, to work, to make money, so that we can, afford bills, groceries, take everyone out, make sure that people can get what they want, toys, all the things, go to school, and that's it, right? Our job is to just make sure everyone has what they need. But that's not, we're there for more than that. Our kids need our time and our presence, not just our money, and not just the things that we're able to do for them, but they need our attention, right? If you can remember thinking about your life as a kid and what you cared more about, it wasn't the things. It was the times that you actually got to spend time with your parents and um, not be in trouble, but that you're enjoying your time, you're watching TV together, you're out playing at the park, something like that. Those are the things that you think about that you're like, man, fond memories. It's not the time that I went to Walmart and my mom let me pick out an action figure. That's kind of neither here nor there. It's cool in the moment, but then it's gone. So your kids need your time, not just the things that you're able to get for them. And it doesn't have to be a lot either. Like that's what I feel like stresses me out sometimes. So I'm like, I don't have enough time in the day to juggle all these different things that I have to do with work and trying to start a business and spend time with my wife and also spend time with each kid because there's so many of them now. There's 3 of them, and I have to have I get to have a dynamic with each of them, but I like blow it out of proportion in my mind, thinking that I need to spend hours and hours with each of them and then hours all together. Just start with like 15 minutes of like one-on-one time, but like really connected. So 15 minutes one-on-one, no phone in a different room, and you're just intentional engagement. You're locked into whatever it is they're wanting to do for the next 15 minutes. It's what they say goes, obviously like boundaries, but don't be the like, no, we can't do that because of this. Or like, let's not do that. Let's do something else. Whatever they want to play with them. Whatever they want to do it with them. If they want to read a book together, fantastic. If they want to like watch a show together and talk about it while they're watching it, great. But whatever it is, put your phone away, intentionally engage in that moment with them, and then make it a routine. Maybe it's like the wind down before bed after dinner that you're like cleaning up together, or it's bath time, or it's, something that you can do regularly to where it just becomes part of the daily rhythm and it doesn't feel like something that you have to put forth so much energy to make happen. The second pillar is emotional intelligence. So if you want a refresher on that, you can go watch last week's episode. It was on emotional intelligence from the perspective of fatherhood. But the second pillar of leading in your house is being the essence or like the action of emotional intelligence. So there's really 4 or 5 kind of like foundational pillars of emotional intelligence. For our sakes here, we really only need to focus on these 3, and 2 of them have to do with you. So the first one is self-awareness, being able to answer that question of like, what energy am I bringing home? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Am I hungry? Did I eat anything? Those kinds of questions. Being aware enough of what's happening inside of your brain and inside your body to say, ooh, I'm coming home and I was bored all day, which was frustrating because I wanted to be home and get things done. So now I'm bringing frustration home, where instead of kind of doing the second thing that it says, self-regulation, it's being able to regulate that. So being able to pause before reacting. We talked about a framework last week called pause, name, choose, where you pause, you remove yourself from the situation if you need to, but you take 5 minutes to just kind of take a breath. You name what it is that you're feeling and what's happening. I'm overstimulated, or I'm frustrated, or I'm getting cranky because I haven't eaten anything and now everything's really loud and it's starting to give me a headache and I'm freaking out. And then choose, all right, how do I want to show up right now? I don't want to show up mean, but I also don't feel like I have a choice because everything's going crazy. You do have a choice in that moment. You can choose to let your emotions get the best of you, or you can pause, name it, be like, okay, I see what's happening. I know why this is happening. I don't need to let this be the thing that controls the situation. I can say, although I feel this way, I don't have to take it out on everyone else. I'm going to go get something to eat, and then I'm going to take 5 minutes to go sit in the garage, do what I got to do, right? So regulate those emotions. Those are the 2 real big ones. Empathy is the other thing. So leading in your home means having self-awareness, being able to regulate the things that you are aware of, and then having empathy to see your child's reality, see the perspective that they're looking at things from. Because a lot of the times, I'll just speak for myself, the things that I'm like right on the edge of getting frustrated with, and then it maybe pushes me over, are things that from their perspective are just innocent. Like they're genuinely curious about something, or, they're still just trying to figure out their boundaries. That's especially for my kids at the age that they're at. They're like testing the waters and seeing what's okay and what's not. And so now is the time more than ever for me to set those standards and be the example and teach them what's okay and what's not okay, by also seeing things from their perspective and being able to deliver the message in a way that they can actually receive it and not in a way that just makes them feel bad because dad's disappointed. In reality, a lot of the things that we expect them to do, they don't know how to do yet. Their brain hasn't formed that much yet. So have empathy for that and recognize that. Emotional intelligence in action. That's pillar number 2. Pillar number 3, this is the big one, vision and direction. So in a nutshell, leaders bring direction. If you think about leaders at work, leaders in culture or whatever, global leaders, if you will, they're supposed to bring direction so that things don't drift and fall apart. Your role as a leader in your home is to bring direction so that your home life and your family doesn't drift and things don't start to kind of fall apart. Like what I was talking about with my loss for the week in terms of like owning finances and planning for the future and having those things concrete and everyone's aware of. We know what we all know what we're working towards, and we can do that collectively. That's what you're supposed to do. That's one of the jobs. It's one of the roles as a dad. And so that, begs the question, what are the values that define your family? You should be able to answer that question, right? And know like, well, it's these things. These are the tangible things that define our family. One really cool and fun thing that you can do as a family is sit down and create those values together. Schedule like a night for everyone to sit down and like, what are some things that are important to us? Let the kids get involved and give their answers. Get the wife involved, talk about, hey, what do you think what do you find important and want to make sure that we're all always thinking of and trying to aspire to be, and write them down. And then put them somewhere that you can see. Even if that's one of the things that we used to do is put sticky notes of different like affirmation type of things and put them all over the house. I used to have a bunch on the bathroom mirror and then on the wall as you're walking towards the bed, in the office, places that you'll be regularly that you can kind of look and see that reminder there and be like, oh yeah. And it's just a quick moment of pause where you're thinking about and being intentional about the version of yourself that you want to be or the family that you want to be. So we have our family values framed in our living room right on the wall. So every time you walk into that room, you're seeing love, you're seeing resilience, integrity, gratitude, all of these different things that we would consider to be our family values, that if you break us down to words, we're a family that loves, we're a family that has integrity, we're a family that has faith, we're a family that is resilient, and all of those values tie back to a Bible verse that we have right beneath the word too. So it's nice. It's like an aesthetically pleasing thing there. One of the frames broke. The love frame broke of all things. And it was me that broke it. I'm just outing myself. No one asked, but it was me. So we need to get a new frame for that. But that'll complete it. But for now, it still looks good. And there's a good amount there for us to look at. And sometimes I'll just stand there and read them and be like, yeah, I need to work on that. I need to be better at that. And repeating them often. And just in your head, just kind of replaying them over and over so that it becomes part of your psyche, part of your nature, but really establishing vision and direction for your house. That is pillar number 3. And then pillar number 4 is just consistency over intensity. What that means is avoiding the big mistake that we all make all the time, but we get these bursts of motivation to do these monumental things and then no follow through. That's been me for years. All of these different things that I get into and want to start. Granted, it might be part of my ADHD. Who knows? It is. But bursts of motivation and then just kind of 2 weeks after, I'm like, whatever. The novelty is worn off. I'm on to the next thing. But being consistent, especially as a father and like the example that you're setting for your kids in your house, what are the small repeatable things that you can be more intentional about? Is it the bedtime routine? Is it making sure that everyone's eating dinner together, that like when that time comes, you're not just feeding the kids and then you and your wife are taking that opportunity to just jump on the couch or something like that, but you're all eating together, all right, and being able to do a daily check-in and talk about how things were. What was your favorite part of the day? What was something that you didn't like or that you wish went different? Those are things that you can repeat every day and just be intentional about those small little moments where over time, it might not feel like a lot, but over time, those are the things that your kids tell their kids about and tell other people about when they're talking about who their parents were. And they're like, yeah, my dad was awesome. Like, he always made sure that he read me a book and tucked me in. And, we made sure that we always had dinner together. And some of the best conversations I had, things I've learned were, at my dinner table, those kinds of things that they leave a mark on your family. And all it takes is those little small, you can do it every day. It just builds a pattern, builds a routine. It's almost like Atomic Habits, book by James Clear. He talks about just being 1% better each day, and that it's not about the big things. It's called Atomic Habits for a reason. It's the small little things that you do consistently over time that end up changing your life and making all the difference. Those are the big four pillars. And just to wrap up, trying to avoid these pitfalls as the leader of your home, things that are presented to us all the time that we just need to be intentional about actively avoiding them. One of them, the first one is being physically present, but mentally you're gone, mentally absent. So talking about being presence over provision, doesn't mean that you physically are there. It means that you physically and mentally, you are present with your family. They are, the priority in that moment. And you're not just there, but thinking about all the other things that you have to do. That's like, I've said it before, but 20, 30 minutes of intentional present time with your kid and then hop into the next activity does more for them than you being there for 2 or 3 hours, but you're on your phone and you're just kind of checked out, but your body's there. So you can say, no, I'm here. I'm present. So be mentally present just as much as you're physically present. That's the goal. Avoid the pitfall of just kind of checking out when you're there. The other thing to avoid, leading with frustration instead of intention. And this can be tough because we deal with a lot of frustrating things and, between work and the attitudes and all of the other things that pop up and budget and finances and dealing with life, and you're getting older and you're like wondering, what are you doing with your life? And so there's so many existential questions and things to deal with that it can be hard not to default mode show up frustrated and just kind of irked all the time. But that's just where the intention comes from, that it's like I always have a choice. I can choose to show up a different way. And it's harder, but most of the time the things that are better for us are harder to do, at least at first. And then, like we were saying before, with being consistent, just to avoid the inconsistencies, but this specifically in terms of the standards that you set in your home. So a lot of the times, like, we'll change rules and stuff based on how we feel. We'll start off really strong with like, hey, no screen time. We're only doing TV for this little pocket of time after lunch or whatever. And then, that mood changes. We make that rule because we're like frustrated with how our kids are acting. Like, you know what? Taking away screen time. And then that mood passes and we're like, whatever. And then this kind of leads into the last thing of like outsourcing leadership, outsourcing your parenting by using screens or by using school or something to shape and form your kids. Those things are there to supplement and help. You are the one that's responsible for forming your kids. And it's tough sometimes leaning on Disney, leaning on Bluey and all of the go-to shows as something to occupy the kids' time while you just get 5 minutes to lay down and close your eyes. It's tough. So I mean, I'm no one to say that screens should never be on, because we use them. We use them maybe more than we should, but that's why they're common pitfalls, right? They're things to try your best to avoid because they pop up a lot and they're very tempting. So those would be the main ones. I think the way to wrap us up and get into our challenge for the week is to pick one of those pillars. So again, presence over provision, emotional intelligence in action, vision and direction, or consistency over intensity. Pick one of those pillars, make that the focus of the week. Try to have an intentional moment each day based on whatever pillar you're choosing. And next week we'll come back and we'll see in the comments, maybe in an email, right? To dadsignalpod@gmail.com, or drop it in the comments. Spotify, you can drop a comment. YouTube, drop it in the comments. Would love to hear how this challenge goes for you. And we'll pick it up again next week. So we've wrapped up for episode 2. It has been such a pleasure. As always, have a great rest of your week. Watch this back if you need to. Remember, you can visit Stan's store /DadSignal Pod. You can get the daily alignment guide. You can also schedule a free call. Nothing to lose. You get to talk to me. You get to talk to me live for 30 minutes. That's great. We'll have fun, if nothing else. But until then, we'll talk soon. We'll see you next week for next week's episode.